Mr. Weber, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Babin, is recognized for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Brothers. How does S&T determine the allocation of resources to basic research, applied research, and development? How do you prioritize that?
So when I first came on board, the previous Undersecretary, Dr. Toole, because of external pressures, she had put most of our investment in nearer-term research. One of the comments that I've made a couple times has been, I think that it's important that we have a more balanced portfolio than just all near-term. I think that's important because as we start looking at, as I mentioned earlier, as we start looking at what industry has to offer, what university research has to offer in terms of potential solutions, we also have to realize there's some things industry doesn't invest in. In those areas, we have to be willing to put in a longer-term investment profile. So therefore, we have to look at, we can't just look at what comes up the next 18 months. We have to say, if we're going towards these visionary goals, how do we actually do that? Right? If these visionary goals are 15, 20, 30 years out, what do we need to put in place to actually start approaching those things? And I think that requires an investment profile that's not just near-term, but it can involve some aspects of basic research as well.
Okay, thank you. And what has S&T done to improve state and local government access to technology that improves the safety and effectiveness of law enforcement?
Sure. So I think we have a SAVER program with our first responders group, which
say SAVER?
It's called SAVER program, which frankly is it starts to compare and contrast different technologies for first responders. We have another group that looks at capability gaps for first responders. So I think, and this is all shared with state and locals.
Okay. Let's see. A July 31st, 2014 GAO report entitled Continued Actions Needed to Strengthen Oversight and Coordination of Research and Development states that DHS had not yet determined the most effective path to guide R&D across the department. Does DHS now have an effective way to guide R&D?
As of the signing of the memo on IPTs, I think we do. I think we absolutely do.
Okay. If that's so, then how does DHS determine the most effective path to guide R&D, and why didn't DHS do this since its very inception?
So the IPT process, that is something I'm bringing back. It did exist in the past. For a variety of reasons, I think one thing, it was not codified. It was an S&T only process. The process now is one that spans the department, based on the memo I mentioned. So I think there's more institutional buy-in, if you will, to the IPT process. So this is something that was done before. It was stopped, and now we're starting it again. And I think on better, more solid footing.
Well, I congratulate you, but what happened to your predecessors?
What happened to them?
Well,
why didn't they do that?
Yes.
Two predecessors ago started the IPT process. Admiral Cohen started the IPT process. He started it based on his knowledge of something called future naval capabilities in the Navy. I'm familiar with that from when I was in DOD. My immediate predecessor chose to discontinue those. Again, I think part of the challenge was the original IPTs were not necessarily supported as strongly by the entire department as they are right now. This has to do with the Secretary's unit of effort. You know, the Secretary's unit of effort has made a significant difference in the entire department. And right now, the IPTs are part of this unit of effort that the Secretary has codified.
Okay. Well, do you have reason to believe that GAO would concur with your with this?
I can't speak for GAO, but I think it's a compelling argument.
Okay. I yield back the balance of my time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Babin.
you, Dr. Brothers.
The